everyone to Be Elite Pod. I'm Shawn Michael.
And I'm Party Johnnetty. And together, we are the PodRockers.
The PodRockers are recording BEP live from our home Elite studios to bring you the best in AEW wrestling commentary. And today we are going to be talking about Double or Nothing, which happened live in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah, what a great, crazy pay-per-view. And it's weird to call it a pay-per-view because that's exactly what it was. I actually had to pay to view it. Something that I'm not used to. I know we kind of mentioned that earlier, but it was a rush. It was fun to do something like that again. And man, I can't wait to talk about it.
It's a big change. I mean, you're used to, like, it's a monthly thing or, you know, there's no, like, pay-per-view type of thing. Because I was never, like, MMA kind of guy. So it was, you know, brought me back to kids' days. You're, you know, getting the credit card, except from mom and dad. It's from the wife. You're like, hey, Miss Michael, I got to order this pay-per-view. And she lets you do it. And you feel all excited. And she's like, well, this one time because you were good.
But that's exactly how it's like.
But I was actually in Vegas when this was happening. I didn't get to see it live in person because we talked about that last week as well. But it was a great atmosphere in Vegas when this was going on. Like walking around, there were so many wrestling t-shirts, so many wrestling fans. As we were leaving the airport, we left the Sunday after. Jimmy Hart was walking around the airport. I got to see Jimmy Hart up front in person. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Came walking out of the bathroom, saw him. I'm like, that dude looks familiar. And I'm like, oh, that's Jimmy Hart.
It's the mouth from the south.
I pee next to him. I was like, hey, what's up?
Nice hog, sir.
But let's jump into our segments for this week. So we're going to take up gorilla position, and this is where we're going to do some quick reviews, or just kind of go through each of the matches from Double or Nothing. So when we take gorilla position, we give our general review and our BEP rating, which we're going to do with what should we do? Like, what would be a good idea? Like, you know, you've got 1 through 5s, you've got grading. What would be like? What would represent the PodRockers in a BEP rating?
I already got it, man. We can't just be the PodRockers without talking about Barber Shop Windows.
Yeah. So we're going to give ratings on Barber Shop Windows. I love it.
That's right.
The more you get, the better, right?
That's exactly right. Throw me through that window, baby.
All right. Well, we're going to start with the buy-in. So they had a 21-man casino battle royale to find the number one contender for the AEW World Championship belt. So, John, kick us off with what you thought of the 21-man casino battle royale.
Well, I got to say, I honestly was having no clue what was going to happen in this situation. Just a little precursor before this. Some may know, some may not know. There was a little bit of a disagreement with Pac, the wrestler. At first, they were really, really, really bringing this up, and it was going to be awesome to see Pac versus Adam Page, but things fell away, and it's totally understandable, and that's just the way it goes with any sort of negotiations and whatnot. And I can respect both parties on just not being able to come to an agreement. But what they did do was they did have Adam Page go over to, I believe, somewhere in the UK. I'm not sure. I can't remember where exactly. And he had a match with Pac over there, and they teased the knee spot a little bit, that Pac messed up his knee a lot. So I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew that after that, they said that they had no spot for Adam Page, and maybe it was just me getting into kayfabe a little bit. I did not expect to see him at the 21-man casino battle royal. And it was a fun little gimmick, little cool idea. Guys come out in groups with whatever cards that they got, and there was the one Joker wild card as well. I loved the Joey Janela cigarette spot. That was just crazy. Joey Janela is a character that I absolutely enjoy and love. And there's a great, I know we mentioned many documentaries on YouTube by Kenny Johnson. There's a great one that I believe it's called Please Don't Die, Joey Janela, or something along those lines. You got to check it out if you want to know more about this guy, this character. I did enjoy Tommy Dreamer's homage to Dusty with the yellow polka dots on his gear. That was pretty fun. Man, I think it was Luchasaurus, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shawn Michael, but I think Luchasaurus threw Joey Janela out and pretty much almost killed him on a table spot.
Yeah, he folded up pretty tight.
Yeah,
when I was sitting there, so I was watching it home alone, and all of a sudden I hear this blood curdling scream, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And you just hear "goosh." I thought it was coming from inside the house, but it didn't land very good on that one.
No, man, no, not at all. He accordioned him, and that was crazy. Once I saw that Adam Page was in that Joker spot, that's when it became predictable. I knew, but I was still excited. The fans had a good pop on that. Overall, I would say I give the Battle Royal a solid 3 barbershop windows.
I like it. Yeah. So I when I first started watching it with MJF really was the one who had the key, I think, that held it together in that first group. But I love the rules they put in place where, like you said, they came down in groups of 5. It was 4, they did the 4 suits. And so it made it go a little bit quicker. Mm-hmm. Let's see. So yeah, MJF, I thought he did good. Brian Pillman Jr., like you talked about his hair. I feel like he's a lost boy. Like you could call him Lost Boy Brian Pillman Jr. Like I feel like that should be his nickname. I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
But I really love getting the showcase of all these guys. Like you said, Brian Pillman Jr., MJF, Jungle Boy, I thought had a good Rumble.
Yes.
And then the one thing I thought was really cool is I was always a big Billy Gunn fan back in the day. And seeing him come out, he looked in okay shape, but he really reminded me of like when Hacksaw Jim Duggan was getting a little up there in age. Like he has that like very old wrestler body. He still looked like he kicked ass.
Oh, yeah.
It was... Battle Royales are always, I think, tough to make look really good because it's just a lot of bodies, a lot of things happening. So like I said, I think it started out as like a 2 barbershop windows, but it came up for me, and I think it got to probably a pretty solid, 3 as well. So I'm going to give this Battle Royale a 3.
Nice.
All right, so our next buy-in match was with Kip Sabian and Sammy Guevara. These are 2 guys that I hadn't heard about. Like I said, I'm kind of the novice when it comes to a lot of this, but I saw them came out. They looked okay, but pretty quickly they felt like the same guy. Mm-hmm. In the very beginning, I think they're newer wrestlers. It's the very first match. Just checking the kinks and everything. And it seemed like they had a little bit tough time selling some of the spots, but it started to pick up a little bit. Let's see. I think Sammy kind of reminded me a lot of like a Jim Carrey in some of his motions, like a young Jim Carrey. But my highlight of this match was the surplex reverse suplex onto the floor.
Yeah.
That was an awesome spot, and again, there's some rough things going on a little bit, but these I think are 2 kids I think that can make some room. But unfortunately, I was going to put it a little bit lower, so I'm only going to give it 1.5 barbershop windows.
Yeah, I had to say I was honestly not too impressed with this match, and I thought with all the hype that was coming into the match, just getting to know these guys a little bit more, because I'll be completely honest myself, I don't know too much outside of AEW and what I see online. I know Sammy does some YouTube stuff as well, and I was expecting more, and I think that overhype really kind of let me down. It wasn't a bad match, but if they, I don't know. I was just, the hype versus what the match was just did not add up. And Sammy Guevara does a great job of making me not like him. Like you'll see him on Being the Elite, but it's not MJF heat. And that's the scary thing. Like he does such a great job of coming off like such a douche, but it's almost like you walk that thin line. You have to watch out where people are just going to be like, I don't like this guy and I don't care to see him wrestle. Whereas people want to see MJF get beat up. He's just a good looking dude overall. And he's got this, this crazy attitude that you'd love to hate, but there's just something a little bit more about it. And I'm like, man, he's going to get booed for the wrong reasons. I hope not. I don't want that, obviously. But overall, with this match, I was expecting a little bit more. I give it 2.5 barbershop windows.
Yeah, I was trying to debate if this should have been the first match of the night or right after the Rumble. But, when you think of the buy-in, you want people they show up, you get them right away with that Rumble, then you get all the other stuff kind of to get them ready for the full pay-per-view. So I guess in a way, this is probably the right order. You get them hooked, and then this one wouldn't necessarily make it like, well, I really, really want to buy into it. But I think the other way around, if you had this first match, some more casual fans might be like, all right, this is what we're going to get. I'm going to back out.
Yeah, exactly.
And miss that big rumble.
You're totally right about that. And especially that's the thing, the pre-show was free. So that was trying to get people to entice them to buy. And if you led with that as the opener, even though it wasn't a bad match at all, it just, there wasn't anything that stood out to me that I was like, wow, I remember everything about that match. The only thing I really remember is Sammy and his love for pandas.
That was actually, I was very confused by that. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of violent pandas, obviously, and so I'm pro that. But I wasn't quite sure what that gimmick was supposed to be. But the tongue thing didn't get me either. Like wearing the panda hat and the tongue thing. I don't know. Is he like a furry? Is that what it is? Is that like what we're gonna find out later on in like down the line?
Yeah, he's still building his character, right? I know he said he came out with basically saying he just really enjoys pandas. It's his favorite animal, and so he decided to incorporate his favorite animal into his gear and stuff. So
well, I mean, you've got the lion heart. Why can't you have the panda heart?
Exactly, right?
Strike fear into my enemies with my panda heart.
Oh, it already speaks volumes. I just, don't want to be anywhere near Bamboo when he comes.
So the first match of the pay-per-view is SoCal Uncensored versus the Strong Hearts. So, John, I will let you start off with this one on what were your general thoughts of this match and your rating.
Oh, man, I really enjoyed this, and I thought it was a great opener for the show, just in general. I really like SoCal Uncensored. SCU! And they actually went over to China for OWE right before this event, and they had like a little match with some of the guys from OWE, and it was fun back and forth, and SCU came out on top. So while I did really enjoy this match, I was expecting the Strong Hearts to win, and I was expecting Cima to kind of get the pin, but that didn't happen. But it did set up for eventually we were going to get Christopher Daniels versus Cima, which is going to be a great match, and I hope I didn't just curse it right there. But it was the fans seemed really hyped for it. I love that the fans are giving these OWE guys a chance just in general. Cima, just there's a lot of history with him as well. Just the going back Dragon Gate and now starting this up, and he's just proved to be popular, and just a fun back and forth. I gave this match a 3.5 Barbershop Windows.
I love the strong opening for this. When they came out, SCU, worst town I've ever been in. Like the whole thing was great. The crowd was into it. The OWE guys, again, novice, so I didn't really know much about them. But you see these guys who have been in this industry for so long and have this history. I love being able to play off that and see that and not pretend that it didn't exist. Mm-hmm. So I really love that. I think it was a great introduction to people like me on SCU, getting to see them do this. I love the quick and hard-hitting pace that this had. I'm not accustomed to this kind of... Again, I'm getting into it now, and I feel bad being like, well, I don't know this stuff, but I feel like there's a lot of people that don't. And the moves that happen here are stuff that I'm not used to. It was quick. It felt hard. It felt, slightly like on the line of being dangerous, and they hit all the stuff really well. And this match got me pumped even more for the pay-per-view while I'm watching it. And I gave it as well a 3.5 Barbershop Windows.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, all these guys, I was basically introduced to Christopher Daniels in TNA back in the day. And then he and Frankie Kazarian tagged up in TNA, and they were Bad Influence there. And then they moved on to ROH, and I've just loved them as a tag team. Then they added Scorpio Sky, and it was such a great fit, and the gimmick's just been fun. At first when I saw it, I was laughing, but I was like, how are they going to get this over and on t-shirts and stuff? And they were able to do that. The Worst Town Ever bit, everyone loves it.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys are just fun in general. So I love seeing everything about it. I've watched previously on YouTube some of the OWE stuff. They have some of their matches and some of their episodes, their shows up on there. You can check that out on YouTube as well. Get a taste for that. Those guys, it's fun. It's crazy. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, I really dig it. So we get our first women's match, which was supposed to start out as a 3-way match with Dr. Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, and Kylie Ray. And we see Brandi Rhodes come out. And I think everybody's thought at this point was like, okay, Brandi Rhodes is going to be throwing herself in this first ever women's match to be the 4th person. Mm-hmm. But no, she wants it to be awesome. So we get our 4th participant, which was Awesome Kong. So John, what did you think about this match?
First off, I really enjoyed that Brandi tricked the crowd because I know she gets a lot of heat just in general. Wrestling fans before or prior just don't give her a lot of respect when it comes to wrestling. I know she's been working her butt off, seeing her doing practice runs and whatnot in the ring. She's getting better and better. And I think that was the big eye roll. And I love that she trolled the crowd. Like, people were just like, oh, geez, we're going to see Brandi. Like, some were excited, but you could tell some were not. And then she did the troll job and brought in Awesome Kong. I actually got goosebumps when I saw Awesome Kong. I really enjoy Awesome Kong. I know some people love her and some people hate her. Some people felt she was a bit rusty in this match, but it didn't really take much away from me in this match. I liked it. I thought it was a good showing from all the people. I can't wait till we get some more one-on-one matches though with the women. This was kind of like a hey, we're just going to showcase all these women. I really kind of want to see more Nyla Rose as well. And it's overall wasn't a terrible match. It wasn't the best match on the card, but I think they did well with what they had. And I gave it 2.5 Barbershop Windows.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of ring rush you could see when all 4 of them in the ring. It felt like some of the hits were getting pulled a little too soon. The only other little complaint was it felt like Kong and Rose were left outside of the ring for most of the match.
Yeah.
So it did feel a lot like a Ray versus Baker kind of match. And I love that we got to see these two women too, Ray and Baker going at it. And I like that Baker got the win. I feel like that's just kind of putting her on the map. I love that she's a dentist. It's Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. It's just really, really cool. And so I'm a huge fan of women's wrestling. Like, I've always thought that, when you get good women's wrestling, it's a lot of fun to watch. And it sounds like they're really going to be pushing that in AEW. So I'm excited to see that. I think Fyter Fest, they're going to introduce the women's belt, or is it Fight for the Fallen? I can't remember which one they talked about presenting and showing the belt.
Oh, gosh. That I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
We'll say in a future pay-per-view here pretty soon, they're going to introduce the belt, which is really exciting. But yeah, this one, I was in the same boat. I was hoping for a little bit more, but was an overall good match for me. I give it 2.5 a Barbershop Windows.
Yeah, Shawn Michael, just to briefly follow up on that. I know you mentioned like enjoying women's wrestling. Me too. This reminded me kind of at the time where TNA, and I know TNA always got a lot of flack, but one thing TNA did really right was their women's division at a time where WWE was still doing diva stuff. And it kind of, if you ask me even, it really was kind of like the start to this women's wrestling revolution. And I mean, sure, give me some flack for that. Come on, haters. But I really think that brought women, it stood out as like, wow, the women can actually wrestle. They're not just models that are supposed to look good. And it was great to see that the AEW is like following in these footsteps. Same with WWE. You got to give them credit for where credit's due. We're now seeing women actually being wrestlers and not just, hey, you originally were a model and, we're going to teach you how to fake punch. So to see this, and I mean, even further down the card, which we'll get to, we saw a lot of great women wrestling this show. Yeah,
even at like coming up in the age of the diva stuff, I mean, obviously it's like, oh, wow, like boobies on the TV, that's awesome. But it still always felt icky, and just, when it starts getting to like women wrestling, like it's like, that's like, they're not objects just to be oogled. Like, I like to see them, wrestle, and that's what we're getting to see here.
Yeah, right. That's exactly it. I've never really been one to be like, oh, hey, let's just do this. I mean, sure, yeah, as a teenager at the time of Attitude Era and your hormones are flaring, you really love seeing a bra and panties match. But I mean, that's not. I'm glad that we're way past that.
Same boat, yeah. I don't need to see another lingerie match. Like, I'm good with what we have.
Yeah, right.
All right, so our next match we have a Best Friends versus Angelico and Jack Evans. So this one, I wasn't too hyped on it. It started out okay. I really felt like there was a lot of time that the Best Friends were in the ring teaming up against, I can't remember if it was Angelico or Jack Evans at the same time. So it didn't really feel like a good tag match to me. There was a couple good spots where they were both in there, but I just felt like it had too much of a ganging up on one or the other. At the end of it, when the Dark Order came out, I felt that the crowd didn't recognize them. Because when they came out, I felt like everybody's kind of like, okay, who are these guys? What are they doing here? It was creepy. You know, when you see the dude have the human throne, like that was pretty cool. But I don't think the crowd knew how to react to it. And that's kind of outside of this match, but I threw it in there. And that's kind of where this kind of landed with just 2 barbershop windows for me.
Yeah, I tell you, I was expecting a little bit more from this match. I'm not going to lie, because all those guys in the ring are very talented on their own. Chuck Taylor, Trent Beretta, Angelico, and Jack Evans. The reason why you're seeing more of the team up in the ring is AEW, like they said, want to focus on tag team wrestling. So instead of the usual, hey, you got 5 seconds, they upped it to 10 seconds before DQ. So that's why you're seeing more tag teams going to be inside the ring where it's both guys, so that they can do this. I mean, it might take away from the match. We'll see in the long run, especially at a time where sometimes we forget that count gets lost. We don't see the refs do it so much when the tag's made, only when they want to. But in this match, I wanted to see more of them. Like I said, all talented guys. It was sad that my favorite part was the hug and the camera work that came from it. And with all those names, that shouldn't have been my favorite part. So, you know, that says a lot. And I'm not trying to take anything away from any of these guys. It was still a decent match, but it just, nothing too terribly memorable for me. I'm not going to lie. I did also enjoy the Dark Order bit. I was laughing hysterically with it. I had no clue, just like the crowd had no clue what was going on, but I enjoyed it. The little kid in me really enjoyed it. I loved the human throne chair. There was one of the little minions that dude was like, I got my camera time. I'm going to be so exaggerative. Like, the rest of them are doing well, and they're like, hey, we're just going to do our part, and we're going to be a part of the throne. And the one dude's like doing the putty from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, like with his hands. And I'm just like, who is this guy? But yeah, overall, I gave it 2.5 barbershop windows. It wasn't a terrible match at all, by no means, but it's just definitely, I wanted a little bit more.
All right, so we're moving on to the next match. I know you're familiar with some of these wrestlers, so I'll let you go ahead and pronounce these just so I don't mess them up. So if you want to give us what our next match was.
That's the greatest hot tag ever right there, because now I'm the one who gets to butcher the names. I'll be completely honest with you. When it comes to Japanese names, I am absolutely terrible, and I can watch them all the time and not know how to pronounce them. Hiroku Shida, we have Riho and Ryu Mizunami. We also had Aja Kong, which Aja Kong is a huge name in Japanese female wrestling. Just a brief second, not taking away from any of these other women, because they're all great names in Joshi wrestling. But seeing Aja Kong, like, I popped big time. I had no clue that she was on this card. And I mean, I don't know if that's just me being terrible, a journalist, wrestling journalist there, but somehow this match escaped me. I didn't know that this was on the card. Absolutely loved it. Yuka Sakazaki and Emi Sakura, very great back and forth. There was a couple little slip up moments, but I think that's because they were nervous, and that's bound to happen with such a big card like this. But it wasn't anything that took away from the match at all. I believe there was one point, was this might have been the match that got the botch, where the ring, the guy, the ring timer screwed up and hit the bell too soon, and the referee, she had to be like, no, there's only a 2 count. But man, I loved the back and forth. All of these women had a great showing, a great way to show each one of them individually. I think they all got some great time with one another to be able to showcase their talents. Like I said, Joshi wrestling is just fun to watch in general. I gave this 3.75 Barbershop Windows.
And Aja Kong, she's the one she's 21, right? And has been wrestling for like 7 or 8 years already.
Aja Kong was the oldest in there that she's been wrestling for a very, very long time.
Okay.
She debuted, let me just tell you this, she debuted in 1986. So
oh, wow.
She's not even 50 though. She's 48 years old. I mean, she's just had some banger matches, man. Like when you think women's professional wrestling, you put her up there. You put Bull Nakano, Manami Toyota. I mean, just a whole bunch. And to see Aja Kong in there just really was awesome. No pun intended, but it was actually awesome Kong. If I believe correctly, and I mean, hey, tweet at us if I'm wrong, but I believe Awesome Kong took her name to pay tribute to Aja Kong.
That's cool. Yeah, I love that. Like Joshi Wrestling. Did I pronounce that right?
You're talking to an American, so yes.
They were talking about that style. I'm sure I've seen it before, but I love that, in this card we're getting all these different styles of wrestling too. We're not just getting this typical American style wrestling. We're getting a broad kind of world perspective. And that's what you want to see with a good company is they're going to showcase the best in the business no matter what style it is.
Yeah,
so
right.
I love the fast pace that they had. I felt like it took the crowd a little bit to get into it, but once they did, it was like they were on it. It felt like it was before the fuck up with the bell. But, you get your great wrestling chant of you fucked up, so they got that out there. But, yeah, I loved the entrances. I loved the back and forth. It was a really great tag match, so I gave it 3.5 Barbershop Windows.
Nice.
All right, so this probably could have been the main event, and I'm actually going to make this my 5-star match, so I'm going to hold off on talking about it to our 5-star segment. But it was the Cody with Brandi Rhodes versus Dustin Rhodes.
Yes, it's just Cody, but with Brandi Rhodes.
I had a question about that. So is he legally not able to use Cody Rhodes?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because first off, that is A+ trolling, in my opinion. Because the way the announcer did, it's like, Cody with Brandi Rhodes. Like, yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And they've been doing that pretty much since he's been on the indies. I know he went by the American Nightmare, and whenever he announced, it was saying with Brandi Rhodes, and apparently he says he's allowed to use his last name. He just doesn't want to. I don't know. I'm not too for sure. I don't know where kayfabe lies, what's the truth and what's not. I was of the impression that somehow WWE still had the trademark on the name. I could be totally wrong. I'd have to look it up. But for the most part, that's what was reported. And otherwise, why wouldn't he just go by Cody Rhodes? But no one's been doing that. So
let's see. Yeah, so I measured this one as a 4.5 just to my Barbershop Windows. But was this your 5-star match, or do you have a different 5-star match?
No, it was the same. And just to let you know, yes, Cody Rhodes is trademarked by WWE, so he can't use it. So he's full of crap if he says that he can use it. Why do I know this? Because I have a background in trademarks. So yeah, yep. And actually, it comes up on renewal this year in October. Nice. Yeah. So WWE is going to probably try their best to get it renewed, but maybe they'll let it lapse and then Cody can use it. So if you start seeing Cody being able to use it, not exactly after October, but if you start seeing him to use it in midway between 2020, so like next June or let's just say next June, then you'll know that it's all a ruse. And so it's like, I've been able to use it all this time, but yeah. No, just to get back on topic though, sorry to take you off on that. Yeah, this was my 5-star match as well, and we'll save it. I'll leave it at that.
All right, so we'll go to our final tag match of the evening. It was the only title match of the evening as well. It was the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers. So John, let me hear what your thoughts are on this match.
Oh, what a great fun build-up. I love the Young Bucks, and I know some fans, if you've been a long-time wrestling fan, especially with independent wrestling, ROH, obviously, New Japan, some may argue that every Young Bucks match is the same. And I mean, yeah, give it credit where it's due. On one hand, they can be very similar, but you can't take it away. These guys put on a terrific match all the time. I know some guys, also wrestling fans, that is, get upset that they seem to win all the time, that they've built up this like crazy undefeated streak, but that's not necessarily the case. They do lose. Do they lose all the time? No, not really. Does Matt Jackson take the fall every time? Yes, whenever they lose. But it was a great back and forth between them and the Lucha Brothers. And you can't take anything away from the Lucha Brothers. Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix on their own, whether they're tagged up or individual wrestlers, are just great, talented guys. Pentagon Jr., a lot of people knew, well, both guys, Phoenix, Lucha Underground as well. I think a lot of people were introduced to them. They became a little bit more household friendly because of that, and everyone absolutely loves them. And this was a fun little back and forth. The Young Bucks went down to Mexico and beat them for the AAA World Tag Team Championships, and the crowd, they got huge heat down in Mexico. Absolutely loved it. And then this match was a great fun back and forth. And if anything, this was a great stage to introduce people into the hype of what the Young Bucks are all about. The Young Bucks really didn't get that chance with All In because they were running short on time. So this time they actually were able to showcase this. And not only that, but the Lucha Brothers as well, getting to show why they're so popular and why they're so talented. Great back and forth. It's a typical match that I expected between the two of them, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a great match, because it definitely was. And I gave this 4.25 Barbershop Windows. Just spoiler alert, the Young Bucks went back down to Mexico and they recently lost to the Lucha Brothers. So the Lucha Brothers retained their titles.
Yeah, you get to see that on the Be the Elite. I don't remember what number it was, like 1 or 2 ago. Seeing him go down there, yeah, and you definitely get to see the heat that the crowd's giving them, and like very much excited that they lose. Which, again, that's something like it reminds me of the day like whenever you had the Canadians versus the Americans. Like when you're in America, like the American, the U.S., the state guys got all the props, and the Canadians got the heat. You cross that border, go to Canada, Canadians got the all the praise, and the states got the heat. So seeing that that border war kind of thing going on again just gets my old wrestling juices going.
Oh, I love it, man. I want to take a bucket list trip down to Mexico just to watch a Lucha event. I would absolutely love to do that. I
just feel like it'd be insane. Like tequila shots all over the place, I'd assume. I mean, craziness ensues. So there's one thing that it's kind of one of my pros that I liked about this, but then about the whole event. But personally, I'm a fan of whenever intros are done for wrestlers, they're done as they're coming down the aisle. And this one, when they did it inside the ring, which is fine, but it's just kind of one of those things that I always like, and coming down to the ring, and you just get more hyped up for it as the music's playing. But
yeah, right.
The Elvis outfits that the Young Bucks had on, I thought were really great. I'm expecting those for the first AEW video game to be unlockable outfits. I have 2 favorite spots from this. It was Nick's when he jumps over the rope, kicks, I can't remember who was on the ground, kicks one of the Lucha Brothers in the face and says, "See ya," then does a face buster on the other one to go, "Suck it," and does a backflip. I had to pause and rewind it 3 times, like, did he really say "suck it"?
Yeah. There was a time where the Young Bucks actually really went overdone on that stuff, and it was absolutely hilarious what they did. They used to do all this stuff. They basically were wrestling fans that turned into wrestlers, and they weren't ashamed of it. You would get that stereotypical wrestler feeling in the locker room. You'd always hear this, that it's like, "Oh, you guys are just being a bunch of marks, you're in the business, you should be professional." And they took that and they took it to an extreme. They're like, "Well, if we're a bunch of marks, well, we're going to have fun with it." And so they would do it. They'd be like, "Hit a dude, suck it. Hit a dude, suck it. Hit a dude, suck it." Oh, it was fun, man. It was funny, and it was a good time. And now they made a joke on being the lead about the cease and desist letter with all that, with the too sweet, and that was it was great, man. It did, if anything. And this is where the old adage comes: any bad publicity is good publicity. And they took that stuff and they ran with it and had a good time with it. And yeah, to see him actually say that again, it had me laughing.
The other spot where they had the dual sharpshooters going on, I really enjoyed that. I'm kind of curious, do you think we're going to see more submission wins in AEW? It seems like that's something that's kind of gone to the wayside.
Yeah, I sincerely hope so. I think just in all general of wrestling, I want to see submissions come back. I know kind of like on the independent scene around here in Michigan, we're starting to see that a little bit, and I really like it. I've never been a fan of people making fun of people for tapping out. If you actually pay attention to MMA or BJJ just in general, if you don't tap out, you're an idiot because you basically shelve your career. And there should be nothing wrong with tapping out. And I don't know why or how wrestling got to that point where it's like, oh, this guy's a huge wuss because he tapped out. It should never have gotten to that point. And I want to see more submissions come back. And I want it to be like actually seen and recognized, and maybe a guy come up, whether he's a heel or not, say that he'd be like, yeah, you know what, I did tap out because I'm not an idiot, because I want to still wrestle, you morons, and just get more heat that way.
Yeah, I want to see submissions go over. I always remember those when I was younger, and if somebody got Ric Flair is one of the most famous of all time. You got that figure four and it was pretty much over. And
yeah, right.
You just don't see that anymore. And like you said, if you get put into an arm bar, that's why they tap real quick, because it's like either you're going to tap or I'm going to break your elbow. Like that's all that's going to happen here.
Yeah, and trust me, I've seen guys that get their elbow dislocated or their arm get broken, and it's not fun. So yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about in this match, I don't know if they're setting it up for this, but I think it'd be kind of interesting. And again, I had a question with this too. So I feel like there's a storyline brewing with the Young Bucks and kind of like problems inside the Young Bucks. I know this was a match, they're coming back, haven't wrestled in a little bit, so they're kind of rusty. But I feel like, between this and them losing in Mexico, are they setting the seeds for the Young Bucks kind of having some inner hostility? And I'm curious if that's ever happened before with them on any of the circuits before.
Yeah, they've always teased this split. There was a time even on Being the Elite where Jericho like called each one of them individually and was like, you're the better brother. You really should take this, on the independent route. And I think they teased back to when TNA actually, and here's where TNA doesn't get credits. The TNA had both the Young Bucks signed as a tag team, and they really didn't utilize them well. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to split them up and actually push Nick, I believe, and basically kind of make Matt a glorified jobber. So they were like, kind of like, no, we do everything together. And I feel like ever since that moment, they've always kind of teased this, hey, we're going to break up stuff, this inner turmoil and whatnot. And it's been going on in Being the Elite as well throughout all the episodes. Like it comes in and out, it ebbs and flows. So who knows if that's going to be a thing here or what they're going to do. But it has happened before. Okay.
I love that they play with, like you said, that they get made fun of for like being marks, but like that feels like them kind of playing with it too and making fun of it. So I think that's pretty clever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did on my rating for this was 4 Barber Shop Windows. So Party Johnnetty, here we are. The main event, Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega, part deuce. What are your thoughts about this match?
Man, I really enjoyed the pre-show hype fight video that they had for it. That was really fun. That's where they took that little bit of inspired by the UFC and HBO boxing that we had mentioned in the last episode, and they used it to their advantage. And that hype video was awesome. It got me hyped. It wasn't as good as their first match. I really enjoyed their New Japan match, and I do believe that was warranted the famous 5 stars from Meltz. this match was fun. Obviously, I think Kenny said he broke his nose in this match.
It looked like it, yeah.
Yeah, he got busted pretty quickly in it, and it's still, even with the botches and whatnot that happened, the mess ups, they made it still look, it was believable. And I think at one point it kind of took it away. I believe there was Kenny was supposed to get on Jericho's shoulders or something along those lines, and he went for a DDT, and at first it got messed up, and then they did it again. I didn't think they needed to try to go for it again. I think I liked the mess up, actually. I felt because like Jericho was beating the tar out of him, and it just showed to me that it was just like, even in the struggle, Kenny's doing whatever he can to scrape by to try to win this match. I do have to say, what the fuck kind of table was that? It was jokingly called a Canadian table because it was a weird mix between an American table and a Japanese table. And I had no clue what that was. Absolutely loved Jericho's entrance or his intro, the little like going through his life. When I first saw it, I mean, the Lionheart Jericho, I thought that was him at first. I was like, what? And then it just went through, the stages. And I loved that. The Judas effect, here's my takeaway from it. The Judas effect, I think, is way too dangerous of a finisher. And the reason why I say that is I'm not trying to toot my own horn here or anything like that. But obviously, if you don't know by now, I was really big into MMA. I actually practiced in Muay Thai for many years, and elbows are no joke. Elbows can really fuck a person up, and excuse my language, but I feel that that's necessary to say. Elbows are no joke. And to do a spinning back elbow is incredibly dangerous. And I mean, you have to have a lot of trust in the guy. There has to be a lot of trust just back and forth with the two people. And I don't care who you are. If that move gets messed up, even if you practice that move a million times over and you hit that move 99 out of 100 times perfectly, there's that one chance. There's that one chance that you hit that elbow wrong, and you're really going to put that guy into a world of hurt. And with the possibility of not only possibility of busting him open in a weird way, but also connecting where you got him concussed now. And so just because of a move like that, you just took a guy out for 6 months, pretty much. Still, though, I do feel that the right guy won. I'm glad that Jericho won. It would have been kind of weird to have Kenny win. Although I wouldn't mind seeing a Kenny Omega, Adam Page match. I still thought it should have been Jericho, and I'm glad that he got his win back, which puts us into essentially a rubber match between the two. So I would give this 4 barbershop windows.
Yeah, I like everything you said. So I feel with the Judas effect, what we're going to see, because to me it looked a little ugly because of the fact that if you connect with that, it's going to really hurt somebody. So you're probably going to see it just feel kind of clunky because he's going to probably have to pull back more than he wants to just to avoid that accidental hit.
Yeah, right.
And honestly, too, Party Johnnetty, you like to party. We're the PodRockers, right?
Oh, of course, man.
And you had this move originally. You had it, because we like to party, that's your closing time effect. Like, everybody knows that. I don't know why they're trying to steal it from you, because it's closing time.
Exactly. It is what it is, though. I mean, that's just the world of wrestling. Someone sees someone do this, their trademark move, and then they steal it. It happens.
But again, I agree with everything. Like the pre-show vignette was awesome. Chris Jericho's going through his different incarnations, because I was always a big Chris Jericho fan back in the day. So getting to see all that was really awesome. The fight seemed like it was pretty grounded, which I like a good grounded fight as well. There's some good high spots as well. The other thing I thought was kind of cool, when Chris Jericho signed, I think there was a lot of hype around it, and they really played on that with the heat. And I'm kind of curious if that's kind of, with him and Paige in this main event coming up, it's kind of, Chris Jericho really kind of represents that old guard, right? Like that old wrestler from the other organization. And I'm curious if he's going to try to play on that in these next couple of years coming up to the TV series. And so I'm really interested to see how they play on that. The table spot was, whenever you see the tables break before they should break, it's always kind of like it takes you out a little bit because it's not supposed to. I'm not sure if they had any more tables around or if there's like something they could do, but seeing Kenny Omega go through the air and land on it, that was a pretty good spot. I agree too. So one of the things I had a little bit of a complaint was when, he tried to go for the one-winged angel and they botched it. And they botched the DDT. And I was like, okay, well, that's, it felt like a real fight at that point. Because, you don't always hit everything perfectly. And then when I saw him do it again and then the finisher came, I was like, was that really necessary? I don't know. But, you work through things. It's a small, minor thing, but a good match overall. And I left it the same way you did. I had it as 4 Barber Shop Windows.
Nice.
Well, that gets us to our 5-star match, which we touched on a little bit, but is the Cody versus Dustin Rhodes match. And I love the vignette that they did before this, the brother versus brother. The intro when Cody came down with the throne breaker, really playing hard on that. He had the attitude killer on the back of his belt.
Yeah.
Seeing Dustin Rhodes come out, the music sounded very similar to the Gold Dust theme, which I thought was a kind of cool little, homage a little bit. Great JR, always throwing out great lines as, Dustin Rhodes is walking down, mighty long walk for a 50-year-old man. I'm kind of curious if this could have built up to something bigger, though. I know they touched on it on some of the, the Rhodes 2 and everything, but could this have been a multi pay-per-view kind of thing? Or is it good that it was just this one thing?
I mean, it's tough. It's tough to be in this situation to try to figure out what's going to work and what's not, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you do from here, to be completely honest. To me, this match was everything that it needed to be. And was that the question that you asked?
Yeah, so kind of what I'm thinking is, it was a short build up to this like classic match, right? And a lot of times when you see these kind of things, it's usually the classic match builds up after a certain number of smaller matches. I like it, but it felt like a little bit of the foreplay wasn't there for it, I guess is the best way to put it. We just kind of got this classic match with very little build up to it. And I'm just wondering if there's more they could have played with that story a little bit. Because the match itself inside the ring, they told an amazing story. And, the brother versus brother and, how they both really didn't want to do it. They talked about with Cody beating his brother was him beating the Attitude Era and kind of getting over, all the stuff that the Rhodes have been through. The crowd was completely into it too, but I'm just, and it's, it's probably, it's like, you get a good piece of pie and you're like, oh, I really want more pie. It's like, well, you got a really good piece of pie, so you should be good.
Yeah, right.
And that's kind of what we got the best damn pie that I've probably ever eaten, or at least one of the best pies I've ever eaten watching this match. And maybe I'm just wanting more pie, even though what I got here was just really, really top notch.
Yeah. I feel like this was good enough, to be honest. Yeah, it was that good piece of pie, that great piece of pie that I don't think it needs to be revisited. I mean, then again, on top of this, what happens to Goldust though after his tag match with Cody? Are they going to start trying to do tag team together? And I mean, that's cool if they do. They're a great tag team. But it is right, like the whole buildup of JR even saying, that they'll walk for a 50-year-old man. But like Dustin's still got it, man.
Yes, he
I
does.
mean, the dude's he's never lost it, and he just ever since he found DDP yoga, he's just been like a whole new wrestler. So it was really cool to see all that. I mean, just the match in general. That was storytelling to a T for me. I loved everything about it. I loved the beginning. I loved the match itself. I loved the ending of it. It was the perfect match. And I don't want them to try to recreate that again.
Yeah, I've seen the ending. So after the match ends and Cody goes back into the ring, I've seen that probably at least 3 or 4 times. And I watched this again last night and I almost burst into tears again.
Yeah.
Because it's that, I've never had, I've got my party brother, but I've never had like a blood brother kind of thing. And seeing that, you're just like tears of, love and affection and like caring. And the fact that there's blood covering all over the place is just the trueness, I guess, of blood's thicker than water. Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to cry now.
Yeah, no. Shawn Michael, pull it together, brother.
The PodRockers don't cry. There's no crying in PodRocking.
Not when we're recording. Only when we're drinking. No, I have to say, man, it was like that. That's the great story. As someone who does have blood brothers, it was a great story. I loved that. I loved the color. I did not expect to get as bloody as it did, but man, did it add to the story. Yeah. And that's the one thing too. I give kudos to WWE for wanting to make sure that everything's clean and sanitary, and like the refs put on gloves and stuff if something happened. I give that to them. I think that's great. But then sometimes blood just tells a great story.
Yeah.
It just adds. It's the cherry on top. And I mean, this was just, oh man, emotional back and forth. I know I mentioned on the first episode, people were crying. I got emotional watching it. Him breaking at the part with his, I need a brother. I told you, man, I kid you not. It's like the last time that I feel that people like actually cried tears of joy and felt that much emotion was, back when Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth got together. I mean, I'm sure there's some, in between, and, tweet at us or send us an email if there's other matches that have sent you into such emotion that you're not afraid to admit it. But it just, everything was great about this match. They beat the tar out of each other, and yet they still got together, and they still embraced. And it even, to a point, being the Elite, we got a little bit of fun back and forth with the Young Bucks, making fun of it even. So,
that was awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and the only other thing I want to mention from this match is Earl Hebner, right? That guy still has it.
I know, man.
Like, I feel like Earl Hebner was old when I was a kid. Like, he's that teacher that like was old when you're in grade school and you get all the way through high school and graduate, and like they're still here. Like they felt old when I was a kid. But
Earl Hebner is the Mr. Feeney of wrestling. He's just everywhere you go.
But I love that match, and I'm excited to see what happens in the tag match coming up with those two. So, did you have anything else you want to throw in on the Cody and Dustin match?
Oh, I definitely, I gave this 5 barbershop windows. Like, this was the perfect barbershop. It had everything for me. Absolutely loved it.
That was that 5th barbershop window that cut him open deep too. So
yeah, exactly. Go all through 4 of them, and then that last one just gushing.
All right, well, let's jump on to our main event. So this is our main event question of the week. And so the question of the week, I think it's fitting we also talk a little bit about this new AEW championship belt. So, Party Johnnetty, what do you think of the new AEW title?
I really like it. I think it's different in its own right, but it's also similar to some other titles that I've seen in the world of fighting as well. I think it was inspired by the Mid-South championship belt. If you take a look at that one, and it's kind of similar vein with like the plates on the side, but it's its own thing. The middle reminds me of like the UFC or one of the other MMA promotions around, and that you just take a look, just type in MMA championship belts, and it feels like it fits in. It looks like a championship title, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah, I was in the same boat. I like that they had Bret Hart be the one who kind of present it too. He struggled a little bit. Like, he even mentioned, like, I'm a little rusty. It's been a bit, but
yeah,
because I think the crowd was confused because I think he said that he's going to crown the champion that night or something along the lines that made it sound like the championship was going to be held that night.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He's like, well, the next pay-per-view, or I don't know, sometime. Leave me alone.
Yeah, it was reported originally that Ric Flair was supposed to be the one to unveil it, but he was in the hospital at that time, so Bret Hart stood in. I don't know how true that is or whatnot, but it kind of makes sense. But it was also funny. At least Bret had a little bit of fun with himself.
Yeah, and I agree to you. I think it looks good. It looks like it looks like what a wrestling belt should look like. It's got some really great gold to it. It's got the company name right there in the center, and I'm really excited to see who the first person to wear that title will be.
Oh yeah, me too.
All right. Well, this is a segment that might get us a little bit of heat, so that's why we call it Cheap Heat. So, PodRockers Cheap Heat segment. This is what we didn't like about Double or Nothing, and I've got a couple things. So, my first, it's minor complaint, but during the buy-in, there was definitely a little bit of commentary troubles. It seemed like both the guys didn't really know which one should talk when. And even when JR jumped on in the first beginning, he seemed a little bit rusty as well. I think once they got into the Dustin Cody match and, a little bit further into it, I think they kind of hit their stride. But, these are three guys starting to work together, so it'll take a little bit. The other little bit of cheap heat that I feel is, we had Thronebreaker, Attitude Killer. There was a Stardust reference. It's dangerously close to, almost becoming cheap heat itself. Like, I don't mind throwing shade at the other company. I like it, actually. Like, that's what really got me interested in a lot of these things. But you got to walk that line. Like, it can't be that we're the AEW shade all the time kind of thing. It's got to be done, it's got to be done artfully, if that makes sense.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, I hear you there. And that was it too. Like, you walk a fine line with that. You're totally right. Look at WCW, the whole, when they were like, Mick Foley's the champion, try to spoil it. That'll put butts in seats. And that totally backfired in their face. I one thing that I really liked too, that was just, I would just kind of chuckle to myself, was when they were doing that little vignette with the fight between Cody and Dustin. They had all three of the action figures of Cody, Dusty, and Dustin. And yet immediately my mind went to, those are WWE action figures.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes sense, obviously, why, they wouldn't have, besides Dusty, they wouldn't have, maybe Dustin in WCW. I don't know if he ever had one of the strong mold figures or anything like that, but really WWE action figures are the only thing that they had of those three. So, I gave a little leeway on that, but I also had a chuckle at it too, because that is it. Like, at first the Thronebreaker thing I really enjoyed, but I also was kind of like, it does walk a fine line. I love Triple H's reply though, with sitting in a very similar looking throne at NXT. I thought that was fun. And I mean, that to me, that's what gets me excited about both. And that's what, going back to the first episode, now we have more wrestling. So, I love NXT and what's going on there. And now we have AEW to compete with it. And those two are what really feels like is the great competition.
See, in my last little bit, so I hate saying it because I don't want to fat shame anybody, because I'm sure Jericho is still a lot stronger than me, obviously. But is it me, or was he a little fluffy? He had a little muffin top going there.
Yeah, Jericho looks like he's been hitting a lot of the brown liquor instead of the clear liquor. And he looks a little, he looks puffy is what it is. And I've been noticing that for a little bit now. Like, I mean, he still keeps it up and whatnot, but he's definitely needs to be doing more of his DDP yoga.
Yeah. Oh, and right now, if you want to, go to DDP Yoga. We don't have a promo code yet, sorry. Maybe in the future.
Oh, and speaking of DDP Yoga, let me tell you, Shawn Michael, with DDP Yoga.
So what's some items that you had for cheap heat?
Yeah, I'm not too much far off from you. Commentary definitely needs a little work. As a guy who commentates on local wrestling shows too, I give him credit, man, because sometimes you get hit with last minute changes and you got to call an audible on stuff and you don't know what's going on. I've been in those moments where you're just sitting there and you're going, and you don't know what to do. But, they did what they could with what they had. And I think it'll start once they realize. Another thing, too, that people don't realize is that a 3-man commentary booth is really hard when you're trying not to talk over one another and yet still have the commentary come out and looking clean and sounding crisp. And poor Jim Ross, obviously, is probably, number one, probably has bad eyes. He's getting older. So, like, he probably can't see the cue cards as well as he wish he could. And on top of that, trying to keep up. I know he got flack when he was doing some commentary for New Japan because he had basically a list right next to him, everything. And I'm like, give the guy a break, man. Just it is what it is. But yeah, they need to work on the commentary and hopefully they'll learn from this. I'm a little still hung up on that Kip and Sammy match. I just was expecting more, and I know kind of already talked about it. I hope for the best for both of them, and that I'm proven wrong at the next time that we get to see those two, whether if they're fighting each other again or if they're fighting other people. The last one was all the guys getting cut off on the pre-show. So, like, the Young Bucks, Kenny and Cody come out and they're doing their thing. It's like, yeah, hey, well, yeah, this is awesome. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it hits 8 o'clock. cut it. And it was just like, what? Cody was like in mid-sentence, just about to finish it. And they just cut it on him. And I was like, come on.
Sorry,
guys.
Cody. We are desperately out of time.
Yeah,
we're online.
Yeah,
we're not up against the schedule.
Yeah. But yeah, those were my cheap heat moments.
Like it. Yeah, I agree with everything on there. I watched, I didn't get to watch this live, but when I watched the buy-in and it cut off, it didn't just like stop. It like said air for me.
Yeah.
So I thought something screwed up.
Yeah.
I'm in the living room going, you fucked up. And Miss Michaels from the bedroom goes, shut up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, did she super kick you on that one?
Yeah, she did. God, she's got moves. I tell you what.
You know, you got to watch out, man.
It's like super kick from nowhere.
Exactly. Charisma, charm. She just fast, agile, athletic. I'll take you out all the time.
I'll say this here. I won't say it anywhere. She's beauty and beast. Not going to lie.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah. She's like a beautiful Brock Lesnar. Please don't tell her I said that.
She probably already. I think she just left. She might be on her way to your house.
Oh no, she has super hearing too.
She's the total package, like Lex Luger. No, not like Lex Luger. All right, well, let's get to one of my other very famous segments. It is our mark moment. So this is where we get our mark on, and we kind of go through BEP mark moments where we talk about the moments from Double or Nothing that made us mark out. So, John, what were some of your mark moments?
Oh, man, I kind of already mentioned a lot of them here. The Big Brother line, or, the brother line, I Need a Brother, I loved it, absolutely loved it. The throne break, I did love it, and like I said, I love Triple H's response to it. That makes wrestling fun. That just makes wrestling fun. And I love that. That's kind of like the great respect back and forth with one another. Paige coming out as a Joker wild card really popped for that. MJF coming out with Bret Hart's unveiling. I mentioned that last week. I love that. Ooh, Bret, watch out. There's a fan. And the one that we didn't mention actually throughout all of this was Moxley, John Moxley coming out and the roar of the crowd. Like I said last episode, the feel as if it was WCW again and the outsiders came in, man. It was awesome. Just awesome. And that had me grinning ear to ear.
I agree. Yeah, so I had the Dustin and Cody was kind of my big thing too. I did kind of mark out a little bit with the breaking of the throne. And a lot of it was with the conversations afterwards where Cody said, I wanted to represent that I'm a wrestler first and an executive second. And, we talked about, who's going to get these titles, who's going to get these big pushes. And, we mentioned it could have been really easy for Omega and, Cody to be fighting for the championship belt, the very first time. But it seems like they're trying to be smart with this and not make themselves put themselves over, if you will.
Yeah, right.
And like you said, Moxley, coming through the crowd, I thought I read or heard that JR didn't even know that was supposed to happen. So his reaction was a legit reaction.
Oh, that's sweet if that's true.
Seeing Chris Jericho be like, "Wait, you don't work here? What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yep.
All right, so this is the point in the show where we do our BEP Elite 5. So this is where the PodRockers rank the wrestlers of AEW. And I'll go ahead and start with my top 5 this week. So my number 5 comes in with Dustin Rhodes. So mainly because he's one of the greatest of all time. He's had a huge career and has done a lot of things. He had a character that's revolutionized, I think, a lot of stuff with Goldust. He comes in here, he still's wearing, half makeup, which I thought looked really, really cool. Mm-hmm. And he had a great match. He still has it, like you said. My number 4, Britt Baker. I loved her in her match. I think she did a great job. Looking forward to seeing more from her. My number 3, MJF. From this, I think, so I watched the pay-per-view yesterday, and ever since the pay-per-view, all I've been doing is watching MJF highlights. I started that documentary you mentioned last week where you said it was more of a mockumentary.
Yeah.
And the fucker gets you because I'm watching it, And I'm like, Johnnetty said that this was a mockumentary, but it seems like he's being really sincere. And then he says, I was like, we're poor, living paycheck to paycheck. And then my dad's paleo cookie business exploded. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
You got me. Number 2, Hangman Page. I thought he did a great job, as well in the Royal. And then my number 1 is Moxley. I think him coming through and doing all that he did in the ring to everybody, just kind of that anarchist, I'm here to kick some ass and take names. I love it. So that is my BEP Elite 5 for this week.
Nice. Good 5, good top 5. I had to say the downside with this is sometimes I feel bad for tag team wrestling because it's like you can't really put them just in one spot together because it's just not fair. But then on the other hand too, sometimes you're like, I only get 5 of these picks. And it's not that I'm wasting it on a tag team, but those are 2 out of the 5. And, that takes up a good chunk. But I'm sure essentially it'll get to that point. But for my top 5, definitely Cody. I thought, if anything, after Double or Nothing, Cody showed he had a great presence, a professional, not only as a wrestler, but also as an executive. To see him just be able to handle this and handle it well and just to do it with all humility and whatnot, it was just awesome. Number 4, I have MJF just because, man, I mean, that guy, after Double or Nothing, the dude can go anywhere and he's going to just be entertaining. And the setup with him after the whole Bret Hart thing and like the guys coming out and possibly going to have some fun matches with that's going to be great. Number 3, Jericho, because, well, Jericho won. And that means he's one of the 2 guys that get to wrestle for the belts. And he would be my number 2 spot, but Moxley coming out with that pop, not only taking out the ref, not only taking out Jericho, but also taking out Kenny Omega. You got to love it. I cannot wait for Jon Moxley versus Joey Janela. This is like a dream come true to watch that. My number 1 spot, though, has to go to Adam Page. Once again, I just absolutely enjoy him, and I feel that if anything, if they do it right, he could be the face of AEW.
Oh, yeah. One thing I want to mention about MJF, because I think we're going to get some good Page MJF stuff. He's got some skill on the mic. I mean, I think a lot of times you forget how difficult it is to be out in front of 10,000 people and not be like ing all over the place, because that's what I would do. And he nailed it. I'm excited for. Oh, they've got some great young stars in this. Oh, yeah, very talented, just in-ring and on the mic. The guy's quick-witted. He reminds me in a way of Bobby the Brain Heenan. Oh, and the fact that it always felt like you could never catch him. Like, you could say something, throw something at MJF, and he would just have a comeback with you. You would never knock him off guard. The guy's he's great. All right, so one of our other segments is what we like to do is we like to shine some light on some of the lower card or underdogs of the show, and it's our Put 'em Over segment. So, John, who is your Put 'em Over for Double or Nothing? In this situation, I had to go with, it was kind of tough because there was a lot, and this one, I mean, it could be argued, like some guys would be like, no, that's not a lower card guy. What are you talking about? But in this situation, I think it is, just in general with AEW, with new fans. And my pick for this episode is Scorpio Sky from SCU. Yeah. Everyone kind of knows Kazarian, Frankie Kazarian, and Christopher Daniels. Scorpio Sky, like I said, he's the new one to the team of the 3 of them. And he's just a funny all-around good guy. Not only is he funny, but he's also very, very talented. The dude's been wrestling for a long time, even though it doesn't look like it. Like, he looks young, but I think he's been wrestling for like 16 years or something incredible like that. But yeah, Scorpio Sky, get a chance, check him out. Check out just some stuff on YouTube and get to know him a little bit more. My Put 'em Over for this week is going to be Smiley Kylie Ray. So, like I said, I really enjoy women's wrestling, and seeing her in there, like, I love that gimmick too. There was I think it was one of the Elites where she was eating cake and MJF came by, and was be like, oh my God, it's so great that like you're not like all these other women this generation. Like, oh, I'm so worried about my body. I'm not going to eat cake. And like, I'm waiting for her. Like, she's got that, like, I'm going to smile, but there's going to be that breaking point where she just goes apeshit. And I'm going to be so excited to see that. So that is my put him over for this week.
Nice. That's a good one.
All right, so we got a little bit of under the ring news, just a couple quick tidbits. So we've got the Fyter Fest card, which is Fyter Fest is this Saturday. So the card that we have right now is Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid, Jon Moxley versus Joey Janela, Cody versus Darby Allin. Really excited for that one. We got a fatal four-way match with Hangman Page, MJF, Jimmy Havoc, and Jungle Boy. We've got, like you said, Christopher Daniels versus Cima. Nyla Rose versus Riho versus Yaku Sakuzaki. We got Michael Nakazawa versus Alex Jabili in a hardcore match. That's one of the buy-ins. And the other buy-in, which is I'm kind of excited for this, is a 3-way tag match with SCU versus Best Friends versus Private Party. And this one is where the winner will earn a shot at All Out for a first-round bye in the World Tag Team Championship match. So they'll get a bye, basically, for when they do the tag team tournament.
Nice.
So that's a stat card. And I don't know if we mentioned this, but Fyter Fest, it's free. You get to go to BR Live, Bleacher Report Live. You get to watch this thing for free.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. The fact you get all this for free.
Yeah, and I think I also pretty sure I heard that Fight for the Fallen's free as well. So I know we talked that Double or Nothing, it's a little pricey. You have to pay for that pay-per-view, but they're giving you these next two for free before All Out. So you got to be excited that they're willing to give to their fans.
Yeah, almost definitely. To just follow up on that as well, there's a bit of controversy in the news that not only with not Fyter Fest, but Fight for the Fallen, that WWE actually announced that they'll be doing their Evolve, I think it's the 10th anniversary show, and then this will be the first time that a non-WWE event is put on the streaming network. And so there was a little bit of heat between Kenny Omega and the WWE, where Kenny tweeted something out saying, pretty much that it was disgusting that they were doing something like this to compete with a card where the benefits is to help the victims of some of the latest, unfortunately, the latest gun shootings that happened. And I believe Kenny deleted the tweet. He might have been a little bit passionate about it, and I can't blame him. But yeah, it was a bit much. At first, when I heard, the Evolve show was happening, I'm not going to lie, I was excited about it. When I found out it was the same day, I thought the same exact thing. WWE gets a lot of heat right now for the whole Saudi Arabia situation. Yeah. I know Kenny mentioned that as well, kind of under cheek and tongue, or tongue in cheek on his tweet. But it was very much like you guys should have probably put this on a different weekend. I think that's a little bit pitiful. If they put it on as the same time as Fyter Fest, I'd say, you know what, that's just competition. That's WWE answering the call. You want to play with the big boys, now's your chance. But putting it on during Fight for the Fallen is disgusting. Yeah. So I'll just put it at that. WWE looks like the loser in this. And what really stinks is that it makes Evolve look like the loser in it, because it's not even WWE, it's Evolve, which is, has been for a long time seen as basically like the kind of developmental territory for WWE. So take with it what you will. Very much controversy between that situation. I mean, obviously, what one we'll be watching. Yeah,
I feel like that's dangerous territory for them to do. I mean, like Evolve, that's probably one they could get away with, but if they put on some kind of a WWE event at that time and you get a hit to your ratings because of that, yeah, that's just a huge win for AEW.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening. I mean, wrestling fans are not going to care either way. Could be one of those moments where you see one laptop streaming the Evolve and my TV's playing the Fight for the Fallen type moment, So It's I just wish that they would have chose a different pay-per-view to do this with.
Yeah, Fighter Fest probably would have been fine to do that against, or like I said, All Out. But yeah, it's a little shady for sure. But I feel like we need almost like another segment to this. We could call it like, All Out War or something like that, because I found another article which was kind of interesting. It's from WrestlingNews.co. And it's betting odds released on WWE stars most likely to go to AEW. So we've got Dolph Ziggler at plus 200, Finn Balor at 275, Shinsuke Nakamura at 300, Luke Harper at 450, Sasha Banks at plus 1,000, Rusev at plus 1,000, and The Revival at plus 1,000.
Wow.
But, I mean, I would imagine Cody's response to that would be, fuck The Revival.
If you, quick question on the spot for you, Shawn Michael. If you had to pick out of that bracket of people or tag team, well, who do you think's the most likely to head on over to AEW?
I don't know who most likely. The one I would prefer would probably been Finn Balor, because when he's got that demon character, like I dig that whenever I've seen it. But yeah, Dolph Ziggler too. I feel like that's a guy who could probably do. He's kind of fallen into that cookie cutter WWE wrestler, so I wonder what he could do on his own. But those would probably be the two that I'd most likely want. What do you think?
I think it's more realistic to see that Rusev might be going over. He's obviously not too happy with all of his situation. He actually just recently came out and said something along the lines of, yeah, the pro-Russia character got dropped basically because when Trump got elected, they didn't want anything controversial with especially Trump actually being in the WWE Hall of Fame. And I can understand that, but it's also kind of like, Rusev's such a talented guy, and I think AEW would be a good fit for him. I know a lot of people think Sasha Banks, and she's pretty much been voicing her I wouldn't call him disparaging, but she hasn't been happy with her role in WWE. And I mean, that makes sense, but she's done this stuff in the past too. And then, she sticks on. I feel the same with Dolph, honestly. Like, Dolph should have left 2 years ago. Dolph should have went to New Japan. Dolph would be coming back to the WWE and would be like in the main events and be making tons of money. Not saying he's not making good paycheck now. And if he's happy, he's happy, right? But I would love to see Dolph outside of WWE. But yeah, you're right. He just fit into that moment. He's played the boy who cried wolf a little bit too much when it comes to he's coming up on his contract signing. I think he's one of those guys who just keeps extending his year contract. And so every year, January comes around and it's like, oh, where's Dolph? It got to the point where I just don't care anymore.
Yeah, and, I get that.
I mean, realistically, I would love to see the Revival in AEW. I think I just absolutely love them as a tag team and would love to see them bring that to all the great talents that's already in AEW for tag teams. But who knows? We'll see where it goes.
So that is the news. So let's go. So we have a segment too, which is From the Stands. Like we said, podcast is just starting out, but this is the section that we're going to let our PodRocker Nation leave us feedback. So this is anything that you want, questions, comments. What do you think of the pay-per-view? So, whenever we come out with the Fighter Fest, we'd like to see what you guys have to say for that. We also want to do something kind of fun. What we want to do is we want to push PodRocker Nation to send us their promos. Give us your best gimmick and your best promo. Party Johnnetty, I actually got one in the mail yesterday. It was weird though.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird because it was a balloon tied to a tape. I got to find a tape player somewhere. Like, it was a legit tape.
A cassette tape.
Cassette tape, yeah. So I got to find one of those and play it and try to convert it. So hopefully that'll be available for next episode. I'm not sure, but all you have to do on your phone, if you have mics, whatever you want to do, record your voice and send it to us, preferably not on a cassette tape. But if you do, we'll figure it out. But if it's digital, send it to us at podrockers@beelite.com.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear this. If you can get it on digital, that's going to be interesting to see a cassette tape. Gosh, I haven't seen a cassette tape converter to digital in a while, so
yeah,
good luck.
It'll take some work, but I'll get it figured out. But so, John, what do we have? What's coming up next?
Well, our next episode, we're going to be reviewing AEW's Fyter Fest, which takes place on this Saturday, June 29th, 2019, from Daytona Beach Ocean Center in Daytona Beach, Florida. And guess what, guys? We already mentioned it, but it's free of charge.
Heck yeah.
So take advantage of that. Watch it. Get involved with AEW.
Yeah, you got the buy-in that's going to happen first, which is free, and then you got the whole pay-per-view, which isn't even a pay-per-view. It's like an FP view. It's free per view.
Free preview, exactly. I like that.
All right, PodRocker Nation. So make sure you reach out to BEP by following us on Twitter at BElitePod, and we're also on Instagram at BElitePodcast. You can email your questions, your comments, or your promos to podrockers@BeElite.com. Make sure to like us on Facebook by searching for BElitePod.
Well, we are desperately out of time for this week's Be Elite Pod, but until next time, I'm Party Johnnetty.
And I'm Shawn Michael saying so long from our BEP Home Elite Studios.
And remember, get off the street and be elite.